Congrats on this super scary South Asian horror film. I just want you to know you got me to scream, "Why is she going alone?" which is the mark of a great horror film. I really love how this movie puts like Indian culture at the forefront of like the horror genre. What drew you to this project?
I'm actually a huge horror fan. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be in horror. It's been on my bucket list for so long. And so when this came along, I was so ecstatic that it was a brown lead. It was centered around brown people. I was like, this is better than what I could have dreamed of. And then of course, when I read the script and was able to have a meeting with Bishal via Zoom, it was pretty cosmic.
What is your favorite horror movie?
My sister and I particularly were really fond of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. Like that was sort of our go-to, weirdly enough.
My favorite horror movies, because I'm not as brave as you, were the Scream ones. So immediately when your boyfriend comes on, I was like, he did it. He's the villain. And then, when he kind of gets, I was like, is this just a horror PSA made by Indian parents to try and get their kids not to have sex? I was like, because it's working.
I mean, I'm not saying it is, but also I'm not saying it's not.
The movie really captures like the horror of feeling culturally disconnected and ostracized. I think this movie does a great job integrating racism and microaggressive racism in particular. Did you ever face that as a South Asian growing up?
I definitely did. I think, unfortunately, it's just part of the experience of being a child of immigrants in any country that's not of that country. It was one of the reasons why I was so gravitated towards playing Sam, was that I understood from, a personal level what those nuances are like, and what those feelings are like. I mean, I think that, and I'm sure you face this too, like even in our day-to-day life, I'm sure there's still microaggressions. They don't just leave as soon as you graduate from being a teenager. I think it's more of you as a person become more sure of who you are. So those aggressions aren't as impactful anymore.
Is it wrong that this movie kind of made me hungry for my grandmother's cooking?
No.
I love the part where your mom was like, "We might not have meat, but I'm going to cook you a tasty dal, and that is how we're going to fight this demon."
I'm with you, sister. That's how I was feeling during takes, and it was
Yeah.
upsetting. Every time I had to flip the food over, and I was like, oh, I can't eat it now.
You shared the screen with like several wonderful like Indian American, Canadian actors, as well as being directed by one. What were the kind of conversations happening on set? Were people just like, "That happened to me. I know that happened to me." There must have been a lot of that.
I mean, prior to us filming, Bishal and I had extensive conversations about our own personal experiences and how we can weave that into creating Sam and making her this well-rounded character. But kind of circling back to the food, I feel like we all connected over the food. There was a point in time where Neetu Bajwa, who plays my mom, and she's incredible in this movie, just an incredible human being. I was feeling a little homesick and I was missing my mom's parantas, and lo and behold, without missing a beat, without even asking, Nidu brought me in tin foil, proper Indian fashion, in tin foil, brought me paronte to set. And I feel like where else would that ever happen? You know what I mean? It was such a beautiful way of like, wow, we understand each other. This feels familial. We understand the culture. This is what we would do in our culture. And it was so heartwarming. And I still tell that story to this day.
I love that. And when you go on in your career and you get a movie with Tom Cruise, he is not going to be making you parantas. So let's value this. Jordan Peele talked a bit about wanting to like undo certain tropes, like the black friend getting killed off, or like, oh, a black character would never do that. Were there any tropes that you guys hope to undo with this, like that Indians wouldn't do? I will tell you this, when you yelled at your mother, I was like, "Ooh, she would not have gotten away with that in real life. Like that is fake."
Yeah, I mean, I think that the movie of its own is really a trope that we're already sort of like destroying. I mean, it's the first of its kind in a lot of ways. One of the tropes actually that does is the father and daughter dynamic. I think that it was really beautiful to see a warm, friendly, playful Indian daughter and father relationship. That's one that I have with my own dad. So that was really cool and important to me to portray, and I'm so glad that we did, because we never really see that, you know what I
No,
mean?
not
Indians
at all.
are like the stern guys, and it's like that's not always true.
Was there a part where you were like, no, don't do that, Sam?
I mean, there's a couple moments where we're close to losing Sam as like someone that we're wanting to root for. So yeah, there's definitely a few, but I think when you look at it from Sam's point of view, she's never intentionally doing anything to be an like, she's just a teenager dealing with really intense emotions and not knowing how to deal with those in a very tight space.
I feel like she shouldn't have gone alone to like fight the final demon. I'm gonna say, like, take your mother. She's obviously handy with everything.